A very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us on the Thursday edition of the show. I'm Yemi Adebayo. Well, tonight on the show, we will be talking about the aftermath of the EFL Cup round 4. Some big teams have crashed out. Some have been able to find their way to the next round. We will also be talking about table tennis on the show tonight. Like we say in local parlance, we have a big fish. So you have to wait for that. We have a big fish in the house, and we'll be talking to him later on the show. We'll also be talking about the National Sports Commission, and of course, the new man had a helm. I'm talking about Sheo Diko, of course, was in his office today, granted some interviews. We'll talk about all of that as we move on. We'll also talk about the Nigerian National League. So that's the outlook of the show today. We urge you to sit back, relax, as we bring all of this to you. And of course, let me quickly introduce our guest in the Lagos studio. Bolu Money joins us now. Bolu, greetings to you. Thanks for finding time to be with us on the show tonight.
Yeah, good to be again. After what we saw in the Europa or Carabao Cup yesterday, crazy results. It just shows the big boys now want to win, even though some of them still prefer to rest some players. And table tennis always has a soft spot for me because one of the sports I really focused on growing up. And well, I will not let the cat out of the bag. He said there's a big fish here. When it's time to unveil, we'll definitely get to talk about it.
All right. Okay, let's just go straight ahead. And do that. We have the pleasure, joining us virtually, that is, we have the pleasure of having with us the president of the Africa Table Tennis Federation, Waheed Enitan Oshodi, joins us tonight on the show. Greetings to you, sir. Thanks for finding time to be with us on the show tonight.
Thank you very much, Yemi. It's a pleasure to be here after such a while now. Thank you very much.
All right, I guess congratulations are still in order.
Yes, thank you. We're receiving all those gracefully and gracefully as well. It's been a hectic 2-3 weeks, and but it's good to be back home with, the election done with, and then we can look forward to getting to work now.
All right. Let me throw this at you. There's a comment attributed to you that I read somewhere, and that's how I want to start off the conversation tonight. You saying that it is your dream to make table tennis number 3 in Nigeria. So I said I was going to start off like that and ask you, how do you intend to do that?
Well, I think first of all, somebody was paraphrasing what I said, but there's really no fear in us saying we would like. Everybody knows for sure in Nigeria, in Africa, that football is way ahead, the biggest sport we have in Africa. And we all love it, but, there's room for a lot of other sports to come into play. And then you have, of course, you have basketball, which is growing rapidly, especially with the intervention of the NBA in Africa. There's athletics, which is, we all know how strong that is. But I think, if we go back, table tennis was always a big sport in Africa. It was, in Nigeria, for example, it was very close to top stars when I was young, were as popular as the top football stars. And so what we need to do, we know it is an enormous sport. Everybody has played table tennis. It's probably the only sport that you get 90% of the population have played at one time or the other, no matter how young or how old you are. So the important thing, like we think now, is that how you take such a big sport and make it, you have to innovate to make it into a lucrative sport, commercial sport. And that's what I think we haven't managed to do over the years. We have to make it, it has to be part entertainment, part sport. And that's what World Table Tennis is doing that now. And I think we can learn from them and bring that to Africa as well.
All right. I know now you're thinking globally, you're thinking Africa. But people will want to ask, okay, what are the plans for Nigeria? Of course, we would love to feel your impact more, even though your mandate is bigger than whatever happens in Nigeria. But a lot of people will want to ask, now that you're there, we've always felt your presence home, but now occupying this kind of position, how much of an impact will table tennis in Nigeria have with you being at the helm?
we've always, even once I left as president of the Nigerian table tennis, we've always worked closely with them, with the NTTF. We've brought events to Lagos. We've taken the players out to top events. We've managed to bring in training sessions and things like that. And this gives us a wider opportunity to do that. Being the president, seeing the total scope of things, then you can easily assess what help you can be to the federation in Nigeria and what the federation in Nigeria needs to be doing to tap into resources that exist at the ATTF level, the ITTF level. Like I said, we've managed to do that fairly well over the last few years, but this is time for, more serious work. And so it's having an insight into what they have out there that they can use in Nigeria. So I'm always close to home. It's the work we did in the NTTF is really what has piloted us to becoming president of Africa Table Tennis anyway. So it wouldn't make sense not to do more of that going down the line.
All right. There's no way we talk about table tennis and not talk about grassroots development. And it gladdens my heart to talk about something that I know you're also involved in, talking about the mixed table tennis championship that, of course, started today. And why I'm putting this in context, the issue of discovering talents, which should be at the front burner for most sporting federations. And now that you might have a different opinion, but it looks like there's a kind of a gap in terms of those that we have now and those who we're thinking might take over from them. And that's why, like I said, it gladdens my heart seeing, grassroots tournaments springing up like the one I just mentioned.
Yeah, I think you're right to an extent. I think over the last couple of months, the federation itself has done well. They've had a couple of tournaments for the youngsters. And when I say young, extremely young, under 15, under 13, with their Funkoya tournament they had. And of course, we're very happy to see probably the greatest player of all time, Atonda Musa, coming home to do the same thing, create a tournament for these youngsters, and hopefully we discover some of the stars. But the mixed team event fulfills two things. This is a new event for the ITTF. It's a new innovation. It started last year, and then I think the second edition is in about 4 weeks in China again. So this is the first time this is being tried out outside of China. And, in Africa, the first time, and it's very important for us that we get on this train very quickly. And it also helps us develop. I was pleasantly surprised to see that we had, I think 28, 29 teams, which one wouldn't have thought we could do, and all coming from all over the country, Kaduna, South, Southeast, teams from there. And I stopped there today just, to spend a couple of hours. I ended up spending 6 hours. The young talents we have in this country, it's unbelievable. But of course, they need help. They need coaching. You can see the talent. You can see that they have the potential, but we need to capture them young. And this is what tournaments like this do for us. So we're very pleased. We're very grateful to the sponsors. This is the kind of thing we need to be doing regularly so we discover the players. But of course, the second half of that for the NTTF is also getting the coaching, getting that into place, and hopefully they can find the funding to do this. And we as the ATTF or the ITTF can always look for ways to help them and meet them halfway.
All right. As somebody who has a bird's eye view, I also want to ask this, and I'm very sure my guest in the studio will say a thing or two about that when it's time for him to say that. Growing up, I know you've had to answer this in different forums, but for me, growing up, you see table tennis tables everywhere, across the streets. It was very close to football, because the next thing that was very easy to set up was, after football, was table tennis. And for table tennis, you probably just need your table and 2 people ready to play. Football, you have to gather a few. But at some point, it disappeared. Can we get back to those days where, you're walking in the street corner, you're walking everywhere, you'll be seeing table tennis? In terms of the interest, it seems, you may also disagree, maybe there was an apathy at some stage. I don't know if it was, but something must have happened to make those days I saw growing up disappear and what you have now.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is the communal effect it had then. Everybody played around the neighborhood, and you're right. We had tables at street corners, tables everywhere. But it's like a lot of things. Society has moved on quite away from that. It was the same with football. We played on the streets and we played everywhere, but you don't see too much of that going on now. Also important that you have to remember is that you're talking of the Lagos of, I'm just going to be kind to you and say 20, 30 years ago, but for me, maybe 40, 50 years ago, there are 20 plus million people in Lagos. Lagos is a small city. You really can't have that. And I'm not talking only about Lagos, all across the Federation. And then all these things cost money now. It's more expensive to put the tables there. And then, there are issues of security. There are loads of issues around that. But the reverse of that is that you need to set up avenues for the kids to play in schools, community centers, and we're still not doing enough of that. And that's the honest truth. If you get these kids playing at 5, 6, 7, you'll find those who have talent. We know in a country with the size of Nigeria, the most talent must abound. But we need to do a lot more. But like I said, it comes back to the issue of funding, even community funding. You get the community to put a table, around the corner, and somebody manages it and helps the kids play and all that. We're not doing enough of that. But also on grounds that they don't have the kind of money. The NTTF doesn't have that kind of money. Even state association, Lagos State Table Tennis Association, for example, is one of the stronger associations. There's a limit to what you can do with the kind of money they have.
All right, let me throw this one in. Probably might be like my parting shot, if unless I'm told to go on. You talked about getting the young ones at an early age. There are people who feel there's a disconnect between the way we run the structure for schools. It's not easily adaptable for young ones who also want to be involved in sports. And so, like, again, from somebody that has a bird's eye view, what could be the solution across the board, not just table tennis? You talked about times where street corners, a lot of football fields, you don't have all of those things anymore, but you still have children going to schools. Then you have a situation where the two cannot marry. So what can be done to ensure that the kids, while growing up, don't get to an age where it's difficult to develop interest in some particular sports because they've passed the time where they could really learn and have interest?
That's a valid point. So you need these kids playing sports right from primary school. Once they leave home to go to school, you need them playing at some level these sports. And it's important that we also think that I think education, and that is now being talking about the structures of governance. You have the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Sport across all the 36 states, FCT, and they must come together. They must come together to develop enough physical education, like we used to call it in our time, PE, a lot of playing time, but you need to work together. The Ministry of Education can't do it on its own, and I tend to see that a lot in schools, that the Ministry of Education, because they, as they say, they own the children, they're their children, and we understand that, but you need to work with the Ministry of Sport. We had a solution to that when I was Commissioner for Sports in Lagos, and I think the Ministry of Sports ran sports in Lagos, even in the schools, but we worked hard with the Commissioner for Education. We set up, joint teams, and we had those fantastic tournaments in those days, the Dawn Games and all sorts, but we got the kids playing very early, and that is what has developed. And honestly, if you get it right from the start, and I think, we had people 10, 12 years ago, some of them were in the Olympics this year. They started out playing school sports in Lagos from their early secondary school days, and now they're in the Olympics 10, 12 years later. That's the way to do it. When we talk of, Nigeria, we like to talk of podium performance. Podium performance starts right from school. It's not 10 years after school. That's too late. You must start from school. 8, 9 years old, you see these kids taking part in sport, running around in a relaxed way, but at the same time being looked after by a competent professional, and then that's the way forward.
All right, you've given us a good template, and I hope that people who can make it happen are listening. But my final question to you will be, if we can get it right with funding, if we can get it right with some of those steps here and there, before we can start having things like podium finish, if we can get all of that right, how long do you think it will take us to become a dominant force as a country, not just a country with a few individuals on top, but a dominant force in Africa or globally? How long, if we get all of those things right, how long will it take us, by your estimation?
Well, I think we're on the right track in terms of that. I think we're not, we can do a lot more, but we're on the right track. 4 years, 8 years, it depends on what you're talking about. In Africa, I think we just won it for the first time in a long time, the African Men's Team Championships. Gold for the men, silver for the women. But you know what was exciting about that was we had 3 players in each team out of 5 under 19. And that is what we need to be doing. Aruna Quadri, probably won more Olympics. There are not many people at that level, at the level he is. But if we continue like this, in 4 years, I can assure you that not only can they be a dominant force in Africa, they will be a dominant force in Africa. At the junior level now, I think we are. For the men, boys rather, we're stronger than Egypt. For the girls, there's still a lot of work to do. We need to increase the pool of girl players and find ways to do that. But another 8 years, you could have an African Olympic champion in table tennis. And that is, that is a very difficult thing to do, but I think we can do that if we continue the way we're doing and we find more money to do what we need to do.
All right, Enitan Waheed-Oshiri, I want to thank you for your time on the show today, and all the best in your new role as the president of the African Table Tennis Federation.
Thank you very much, Jamie. It's always good to talk with you.
All right, an interesting conversation. Just when I thought I was hold, reality check. but you know, I was referencing, say, 20, 30 years back, and it was able to take me back to his own era. So, but then again, when we say some of these things, I've been educated. You have to factor in some of the societal changes, some of the reasons why you cannot have it like you used to have it then. But then again, you still have to measure growth one way or the other.
Okay, let me go back to, I think 2 weekends ago, fortnight, I saw what we call egg. I saw a pack and I saw the price. I was amazed. The price for one was more than enough to buy a pack while I was growing up. So literally anybody, 5 naira, 10 naira, pick up. We don't even use rackets. We use what we call bats. Just cut any wood, set up. If you don't have a table,
we break tables.
Use bench. Put 2 benches together. You are good to go. No need for net. So everything was readily accessible, irrespective of how much your maybe school lunch fee was. And it wasn't elitist. That also made it... Exactly. Anyway, now for me to buy a pack, it's a pack of 6, I think it's about 1,000 naira or thereabouts. How many children would take out 1,000 naira because I want to buy a pack of eggs? I'd rather just use my money to eat and everything. Even football now, the price back then, at the time, you can get almost any size of football. So I think I understand where Waheed-Oshiri is coming from, the society itself. Prices of things have gone up and all, which makes it difficult. Areas. And sadly, I don't think there's anything to say about Waheed-Oshiri's love for grassroots sports. Growing up, many of us even thought he was president of table tennis. No, he was not even any board member or anything. He was just someone who loved. So he understood it better than grassroots. Now we don't even have people who fight for grassroots. People just want to host competitions. Let's just arrange things that, okay, play this one. After in certain positions. We are gone. After that, let's see ourselves in a year or two. So it's now made it more difficult. And the transition from regular table, regular bench is way difficult to moving on to standard board. At least, growing up, I played football twice a day. That's how much angry footballers are complaining. Morning session, you play night, sometimes you play in the afternoon. There were times, then when I had to train, proper training, I knew there was difference. Big one. So the transition is always a difference. But then we had people who were willing to train us. At some point, my coach then told us we're not going to kick ball for a month. That means they wanted to develop this guy. But now we see more people. Let's just arrange, organize things. So if we have many people who have their hearts, we say it every time, without athletes, almost every administrator technically are useless because you are not administering anything.
They are useless.
Hopefully, we
technically just being nice.
Exactly.
Without the athletes, what are you
administering?
What are
Hopefully,
you
we have people who have the heart to make it grow. Table tennis was fun growing up.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we get to enjoy the fun again.
Hopefully, we do. Hopefully, we do. And hopefully, we get to a point where we become a dominant force globally, not just in Africa. Although the Chinese people will have something to say about that. All right, we need to go on a break right about now. When we return from that break, there's still so much for you. Join us again. All right, welcome back. Let's talk about sports generally now. It's no longer news that Shehu Diko is now at the helm of the National Sports Commission, and of course, he is resumed into office. What you call a transition. The former Sports Minister John Eno handing over some notes to the man who is now the National Sports Commission chairman, and of course, he had a few things to say. Granted an interview after he officially resumed into that role. Let's listen to him, and we'll come back to digest some of the things he had to say.
We have a larger objective, a larger vision, which is to harness the potentials of a sports economy in Nigeria. And therefore, there are a lot of steps, a lot of action points that we need to take. But the fundamental, we have to quickly, the first step is to work on the legal issue, because we need to improve on the legal framework and get it sorted very well to provide the enabling environment for us to drive the next level and to achieve what we want to achieve. And then, as we said, the objective of what we are going to do stand on three pillars. The first one is we have to understand our sports international asset. So everybody have to key in, everybody have to give you the concessions, the support, the whatever privileges sports need to get, they should get, so that it can be able to deliver and make everybody happy. Second, we have to work on the legal issues, legislative matters, and all the framework. There are so many legislation we have to create around sports to be able to get this jumpstart the step. Any society that you see it succeed, any industry that succeed, it has a proper legal framework for it to be able to explore. Because the idea is the legal framework should be able to give confidence to the private sector to come in, clearly set what the government should do, clearly be able to bring in the right amount of resources, not just the funding, even the capacity resources that will come into work. You see, before, when we don't have the National Sports Commission, for example, you can't bring any expert and give him work in the ministry. But now with the National Sports Commission, any expert in the world, anywhere in the world, we have somebody who is qualified, who can add value to the growth of sports in Nigeria. We can bring the person and give him either contract, employment, consultancy, without any hindrance, within the framework of the legal framework, the legal possibilities that we have, so we can contribute to develop the sports. And then we have to also work on the infrastructure. You can't develop sports without the infrastructure. So we have to also create a process and a system that will be able to ensure that we have a sustainable infrastructure development and maintenance, sports infrastructure across board, from the world-class infrastructure for the class event to the local infrastructure for grassroots development across the country. We have to also create all that to get that done. So when all these are put together, we can be able now to drive and get us to the promised land, and then everybody will be happy. At the end of the day, even if we went to a tournament or a competition, the medals are not coming. When we look back, we can say, look, the sport is supporting 3 million people, for example, across the value chain, not just the sport industry, across the value chain of the sport. Then we're doing something. We look at our GDP and say our sport is 3% of our GDP. That's how we can look at it. And then when we look at it that way, then winning is, you can win by luck, you can win by preparations, but we have to do the preparations very well to get it right, and then so we can be able to win the right way. For example, we can't wait till 2028, for example, to say we are now going to ask for 20-30 billion to go and participate in the Olympics. That's just sending people on holiday. We have to change our budget cycle and thinking, for example, so that from today, in next year's budget, for example, there has to be a subhead where preparations for 2028 Olympics money is there.
All right, the man at the helm, chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko. And for those of us who've known him for a while, you now have to start getting used to him talking about other things aside football. I could listen to him. They're talking about Olympics, talking about plans and other things that need to be done. A good way to start. Bolu, we're not always lacking people with ideas. That must be said. He said all the right things. I wouldn't expect anything less. But hopefully, all of these things will be backed with the right approach, and so that there can be success. He said you can win two ways. You can win by luck, you can win by preparation. If you win by preparation, it lasts more. If you win by luck, you can't replicate it.
Well, I had my reservations there, but luck itself is opportunity mixed with preparation. Not Coco take 10 million. No, that's probably magic. So you need to still, even in luck, there's still preparation, because without preparation, you won't even get there in the first place. And that talk is cheap. We hear different things every time. It feels like most administrators know what to say. When they come up, they tell us the right things, but we're acting the right things. For example, like play, the talks of the funding for the Olympics is gone. Oh. Yeah, that generation is gone. We are starting afresh. But what are we starting afresh with? I say it every time. We don't even need ministry with football. Don't worry. Football will sort itself anyhow. Now we've spoken about table tennis. Is the ministry trying to do anything? Now Sports Commission doing anything with in terms of that? Basketball, they are still going back and forth. The men's basketball league is on now, but it's still more like behind the scenes. So these things are cheap. These things are easy. I believe one of the first steps now is all the federation presidents or board members, everybody, they need to be a sit down with the Sports Commission. What are your plans? There has to be laid down plans, not talk plans. Action plans. What do you want to do for the remainder of the year? What are your plans for the next year, next year? We can talk about Olympics. Some persons are ready for next Olympics now. So it is not just to talk. Are there laid down plans? If not, we'll come back after Olympics next year and talk about how we want to prepare for 2030.
And set up another panel.
Exactly. There has to be laid down plans. So I want to believe one of the first things for all the sports, everybody come together. Let's talk. It doesn't matter how long it will take. Why he says something that he planned to just see the athletes for a few minutes or a few hours. He ended up spending about 6 hours. That's because he saw young guys who he thinks are the future prospects. These are the things we should be fighting for. We shouldn't be here talking about, oh, we will. No. Let's see the action.
All right. Bolu touched up on a very interesting point. The panel of inquiry that was set up by the former sports minister, what would be the fate of that panel? A lot of questions which beg answers, but then again, some will say the man has just resumed office, so you need to wait, let him settle down. But we'll see what happens with that one. All right. Of course, since he resumed office, sports administrators have been, talking about the new chairman of the Sports Commission, wishing him well, and of course, hoping that he succeeds on the job. Here are some of the sports administrators sharing their thoughts and, of course, wishing the man at the helm all the best.
Talking about commission, what I understand about commission, it has to be something that will bring a lot of ideas, because it's going to bring about some members of commission apart from the chairman, and I think those members can contribute a lot in trying to bring up solutions to certain problems that we have, and we have to go through the content of the law that created the commission. That's where we will know more about exactly what is going to happen. But I know for sure that the creation of a sports commission will bring a lot of new changes in the sports sector. And by the grace of God, if it is being followed religiously, we're going to see a lot of improvement in the area of sports.
I mean, if I have to go with the conversation that is going on, the majority of people within this space are saying that it is actually a welcome development. And for that purpose, we want to see where policy will impact on what we are doing on practical field. And that is what some of the conversation that is going on, that with this commission, we will see where technical input, insights, knowledge, the latest developments in sports, normally, as they say, would come from the composition of the structure of the commission, other than the one that is very politically, charged. I mean, that's the area which I think is a welcome thing. And this is what, a lot of stakeholders are coming, a lot of respected stakeholders are speaking around, and I think, they are really right in their direction. So we see, and it's old promise for us as we progress, that's going to be a great moment for us in terms of sport development in Nigeria.
All right. Some very notable sports administrators there, talking about the sports commission and talking about a whole lot of issues, and of course hoping that we'll be able to get it right with our sports. So wish him all the best. Bolu, quickly before we move on to other issues, this is the first time you're coming after the new development. Do you think this is the change that we need? This is the change that will propel us to get it right with sports?
I think everything just change of name, change of portfolio. I didn't see any difference between the Ministry for Youth and Sports to Ministry for Sport Development. I still think we will have the same thing with National Sports Commission.
But some will say, look, this is a tenured appointment. There's going to be stability. Whoever is in that position is not going to be afraid of. They want to do cabinet reshuffle, a shake-up. He knows, look, I have a tenured...
It's a cabinet that brought this in. Another cabinet can change it again. So that's, if it's a constitutional thing now, so okay, it's written there. There has to be longer process to take it out. Another person can come out in that 3 years and say, okay, no sports commission again. Let's go back to sport development, youth and sport. But while you are there, just, there are some positions you get to when you do some things. People will beg you to stay. That's what I wish and hope we can achieve. Some persons have the reservations about Shehu Diko in LMC, but LMC is gone. That's bye-bye. Now with the National Sports Commission, he can still wow everybody. Is there enough time? There's definitely more than enough time. At the same time, there's no time. He needs to get the ground running. People will say, okay, give him time to rest. If it's at the beginning, we'll say, okay, starting affair. Now someone has moved on, spent over a year. You need to continue from where the person stopped and move on from there. Me, is just living on hope. And I really want, for those I wish won't do anything, I wish they can disappoint me. For those I think they can do something, I want them to beat my expectation. There's nothing stopping us from hitting the top. But do we have the talent? We have more than enough. The only problem is just harnessing them, and part of the major challenges to that are the administrators.
All right. I guess we can leave the issue for where it is for now, and let's move on. Let's talk about the WAFU Under-20, WAFU B Under-20 Championship. The Flying Eagles, of course, did us proud, retained their title, and of course, they have qualified for I still don't understand the reason behind this WAP, but that's for another day, because the strong teams in that block might not get the chance because they will have to cancel each other out. Whoever was there when they were making this decision, I still don't understand what they were thinking. But we don't get to complain about that now because our own team have qualified for the Under-20 AFCON. We probably will be licking our wounds if some of the other teams we beat had been stronger than us, and we didn't get the chance to qualify because we had to play through the WAFU. It's a different case if you go to the Under-20 AFCON and you didn't qualify. But that you played here, you had to cancel yourselves. And this is the strength of, in my opinion, that WAFU region, that's where the strong teams in age grade football. So why do we cancel ourselves out?
I said it for a very long time. I don't know who sat down in the CAF room and made that decision. It makes no sense at all. Same thing happens in women's football. I think the only guys they don't do it to are the senior men's national teams. Every other competition in Africa, underage men, women, even the women's team, because Ghana will likely never go to the WAFCON again. They will because there's no way in this lifetime Ghana will be the Super Falcons. They will never qualify for it. We see the same thing in club competitions for the women. If the best teams are for one region, let everybody go. If you want everyone to participate, then don't play qualifiers, throw everybody open, because I've been saying it for years. It makes no sense. Ghana, for example, Chan is the same thing. Under 17, under 20, that means for the last Women's World Cup, I think 4 of the top 6 ranked teams didn't go for the Women's World Cup from Africa. Why? Because 3 of them didn't even qualify for the competition based on the WAFU. I don't know, hopefully someday they get to cancel that. Use your seedings, use performance. If all the best teams are from one region, let everybody. But congratulations to the boys. They had a poor start, losing the opening match. Then from then on, it was win, and win. And here they are defending their title. Let's see how far they can go at the Under-20 African Cup.
All right, let's see how far they can go when they get to the Under-20 AFCON. All right, let's talk about the Nigerian National League. The new season is upon us. And of course, the draws. Let me just quickly go ahead to just fill you in on the composition of the teams as you will have it. We start with Group A of the Southern Conference. It's always played as the Southern and Northern Conference, each divided into two. Group A of the Southern Conference, you have Sporting Lagos, Solution Football Club, First Bank Football Club, Gateway Football Club, and King Khalifa Football Club. You have Abakaliki FC, Madiba FC, Emalex FC, Godswill Akpabio FC, Oshi United, and Calabar Rovers of the Group A of the Southern Conference. Let's quickly move on and flip it now. In Group B, you have Ijele, you have Inter Lagos, Crown FC, Dakada, Igbajo, Abia Comets. Each of these groups have 11 teams making up for the Southern Conference. You also have Inter Lagos, Crown FC, Dakada FC, and Abia Comets. All of this in that grouping. There you have a Smart City, Beyond Limits, and Warri Wolves. All right. So let's quickly talk about the Northern Conference. You have Group C, Northern Conference, Gombe United, Sokoto United, Zamfara United, and Barao FC. You have a lot of teams here. It's like the nursery for Nigerian football, where is the bedrock. Let's look at some of the other teams: Mighty Jets, Wiki Tourists, and Mailantaki FC. These are the teams. Let's see if we can move quickly with some of these teams: Doma United, Kebbi United, Basira FC, Adamawa United. These ones are the ones in Group D. Kada Warriors, Yobe Desert, and Sporting Supreme. I like that name, Sporting Supreme Football Club. All right. So, Bolu, I want to quickly get your thoughts. NNL, many teams, always a battle. At least for the last season, there were not too much of, some of the things we're used to. We're used to seeing a lot of walkovers. We're used to seeing a lot of disrupted games. I may be wrong, but from what I read and from evidence, there weren't too much of that next season. If they can continue in that light, then it will be good for Nigerian football.
The second division is always the bedrock of every league, where the hustle is more, the struggle is more. And looking at the battle between Bendel Insurance and Raymond Stars now, it started in the NNL. I remember that game that they chased players, chased Russia, and since then, there's been huge battle between two clubs. I agree with you 100%. Last season, there were little controversies compared to what we see in the NNL this season, and I like that plans are out already. In fact, some persons called already from an NNL team that, okay, we want to plan for journalists to come and watch. I like that there's attention on the NNL this time around. It's not just the NPFL. Sometimes now you see results in graphics, you hear displays, you get to watch highlights of games. This is what we are talking about. Not just put all the attention in the first division. Now NNL is getting the attention. Then even the battle is always more when they get to their own Super 8, which is what we're always calling for. I hope this season even gets better than what we saw in the previous year. We can't wait for the NNL to kick off fully. All
right, we can't wait. Too many matches to pick from when it all starts. All right, let's travel abroad now and talk about Manchester United. People are enjoying banter these days, all of the things they're saying. But let's talk about Manchester United's target for the vacant managerial position, Ruben Amorim. There are talks that we will have a clear picture by Friday. But Bolu, it looks to me like there's no going back. They've identified a man. It does appear that the man wants to come. He's been in a similar situation. Was at Sporting Braga. The guys from the club he currently is wanted him. He left at this kind of time, And to his credit, he's won titles in Portugal. But then again, people will point to the fact that Erik ten Hag won titles in Holland. It's a different ball game. But some will say he's a young manager, and it looks like he has all the ingredients, apart from time. Time is the only one he doesn't have.
Sometimes it feels like what they had said was true, that United are cursed. When you look at these managers before joining, many of them blow something, get to Old Trafford, start well, then everything goes down. Same with players. When they sign players, these guys were doing well, they join United, they go down. Some of them, when they leave, they go back to the level they were. Then you ask yourself, what is going on with this club? But if you check out their next games, they are winnable matches. Now it's supposed to be Ruud van Nistelrooy, but they didn't even want to plan or wait for anything. Started talking to Ruben Amorim already, and he's almost certain to join. It feels like he's coming to United immediately after the next international break. They had to pay about 10 million euros. Then for his assistants to join him with immediate effect, they will have to pay that extra 5 million, or you wait till 30-day window where you need to give time for. But whichever way, Amorim is joining Man United. His assistants are joining Manchester United. There are reports that Ruud van Nistelrooy still wants to stay, unlike Carrick, who left after Solskjaer was done. We're hearing he wants to stay and continue to work with whoever comes after. But they need to solve their problem. Sometimes you look at the club, United scored 4 goals from their first 4 shots on targets in the Carabao Cup game against Leicester City. Then you ask yourself, the same United that could miss empty net. Is it that they didn't like Erik ten Hag, or the problem is, a new manager is coming on board, let's try to improve ourselves and leave? But let's see how Ruud van Nistelrooy is supposed to still take charge for their game against Chelsea the weekend. But Amorim is not coming. I think it starts immediately after the international break. But you still can't judge them now. Let's see what happens from now till maybe January, when the FA Cup itself starts. And for the rest of the season, then next year, we know where to start picking.
I know it's likely not probable, but if the Amorim situation, there's a snag, and maybe things take a different turn, do you think the United hierarchy will be confident leaving Ruud van Nistelrooy in that position?
Remember, Van Nistelrooy was a manager in Netherlands before he decided to come and become assistant with Man United. But if I have a chance to advise them, I'll tell them, if Nistelrooy will be your man, don't make the mistake you made over the years that if he does well after 5-6 games, he give you a permanent job. No. If Amorim doesn't work for whatever reason, let him stay as interim. When the season ends, if it will be like that, you can now start planning, what's next? Not all those, after a few games, jump to give me a permanent deal, then the result stops and everything starts coming down. If Amorim deal works, he'll be the youngest manager ever to come to Manchester United at 39. It means more pressure. A club like Manchester United, I remember when Nagelsmann Madrid wanted him, he told them there's enough time for me to come back. At 31, come to Madrid, no way. So if you're a young manager going to one of the top most clubs, not that you played for them, that you're a club legend or so, I think the media will definitely eat him aboard. If he proves it with the results, they will fall in love with him no matter what.
All right, you talked about United's next games, so let's quickly look at it. And it's obvious Ruud van Nistelrooy will be in charge for a couple of those games. All right, so let's go across. November 3 at home in the Premier League, they'll be up against Chelsea. November 7, they'll be playing against PAOK. In the Europa League, it's also at home. On November 10, it's up against Leicester City. They will be hoping that it's going to be the same thing, the same outcome when they face Leicester City in the EFL Cup. All right, November 24, it's going to be away to Ipswich Town in the Premier League. November 28, Bodo Glimt in the Europa League. Then, of course, at home to Everton in the Premier League. Bolu, I have to agree with you that these games are winnable. And really, I don't think anybody should even be judged. There are no easy games in football, I accept. But United on a good day, with your eyes closed, you would expect it to be 6 out of 6.
Even United on a bad day should make, probably apart from the Chelsea game, and luckily for them, all these matches apart from Ipswich should likely be Amorim's first game will be away. Other matches will be played at Old Trafford, although some are calling it Old Trafford, but they should still get to win these games. Like you rightly said, I don't think the manager will be judged based on this one, but it's always good to start well, because if he loses those games, people will say it's early days. They will come for him. So let's see how far they will go here. We can now start picking. Maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel, or they switch off the light.
All right. If it doesn't go well, nightmare has already begun. Let's see what happens. EFL Cup, on this trend of what has happened yesterday, we now have the teams into the next round. And Bolu told us they are taking this seriously. Don't let anybody fool you. All right. So quarterfinal fixtures for the EFL Cup, also known as the Carabao Cup. Arsenal will take on Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace edged out Aston Villa. Newcastle United up against Brentford. Southampton up against Liverpool. Tottenham up against Manchester United. These games will be played on December 17, 2024. Bolu, you have 30 seconds. Make a call. Some of these matches.
How do you go from playing Man City to playing Manchester United in a cup game? Incidentally, they are playing all at home. So if you have to make a call, I think it's going to be Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, and United. Tottenham was supposed for the semi-final.
All right. Since you mentioned Tottenham, maybe a few words on Ange Postecoglou. He's always won titles in the second season, and there are talks. Now he has edged out Manchester City, and he's up against Manchester United, and everybody knows Tottenham's best chance of winning anything has to be in the cup games.
If you rest any player for the remainder of this competition, then he's not ready to. He will not win the Premier League. Just go all out for this one. When Son recovers, put everything there. He has a chance. He's one of the top teams here, but he needs to go past Man United first. After going past United, the confidence increases. Oh, we can do this. But don't forget, Arsenal are still there, Liverpool are still there. So one step at a time for Ange Postecoglou.
All right, one step at a time for Ange Postecoglou. We'll see. All right, we've crossed the finish line on the show tonight. Before we go, I want to thank Bolu Omoni for his time on the show today. Hopefully we'll do this again some other time.
Definitely. It's always a pleasure coming around.
All right. That's the show today. We do hope that you've enjoyed everything we've been able to bring to you in the time that we had. Still one more edition before the week runs out. We urge you to enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be back here again tomorrow. I'm Yemi Adebayo. Bye-bye now.